The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. This is Sharon from the Alumni Office, and I want to welcome you to our webinar, Helpful Tips for Writing an Awesome Resume, presented by Jenny Nesenjuk. As you know, the key to getting the job of your dreams is to create an amazing resume. An awesome resume helps you to separate yourself from the pack of hungry applicants who also want your desired position. It also helps you to land an interview, which is critical to getting the job. But not all resumes are created equal. Some are better than others. The good news is that there are things you can do to make sure that your resume outperforms against the competition. In today's webinar, our speaker, Jenny Nesenjuk, master's degree, and she's an assistant director in the Career Development Center at William Paterson University, will show you how to create that winning resume that will help you get your foot in the door. Before I introduce Jenny, I want to go over how this webinar will work. You should be able to see the presentation right now on your computer screen. You will also be able to hear the presentation through your computer's audio system. Please feel free to ask questions by typing them in. We will be monitoring all the questions and we will answer them as the webinar proceeds. Any questions that are not answered in today's webinar will be addressed after the webinar is completed. So once again, feel free to type in those questions as the webinar goes on. Now I'd like to introduce today's speaker. Jenny Nesenjuk has been working in career development and advisement since 2007, with a primary focus on assisting students to gain skills and competencies necessary to be successful and accomplish their goals. She's currently an assistant director in the Career Development Center at William Paterson University, where she works one-on-one with students, creates and fosters new relationships with employers from a variety of fields, and strives to be an active member of the campus community. Prior to joining the William Paterson family, Jenny was the acting director of career development at Hudson County Community College, where she began the task of building the department from the ground up. Additionally, she was responsible for bringing the major exploration fair to HCCC, working with deans and faculty to provide students with information about academic programs of study offered at the college. In addition to her career development and advisement experience, Jenny has presented at both the National Career Development Association annual conference as well as the Region 2 NACADA conference and is an active member of the New Jersey Career Center Consortium. She holds a Master of Arts in Counseling, Student Affairs, and Higher Education from Montclair State University. In today's webinar, Jenny will give you lots of tips on how to create an awesome resume. And now I would like to introduce our presenter who has presented many times before, Jenny Nesenjuk.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your time and for being here. And thank you, Sharon, for that lovely introduction. I'm very excited to be back and presenting to our wonderful alumni again. I always have a really good time doing this. Please, if you have questions during the webinar, don't be shy. Type them in and Sharon will make sure that I get those so I can answer them. I will also be available by email after the webinar. If you want to email me questions, I'm happy to answer those for you as well. Excuse my voice, I'm a little bit hoarse. I think I may be getting sick. I will try to speak clearly and slowly for you. So today we're going to talk about writing your resume. I'm going to give you some tips and hopefully things that you find useful when revising your resumes to go out and find some new jobs and careers. So let's get started. Okay. Oh, there we go. So the purpose of your resume, this is really your calling card, and it is a marketing tool about you. So it needs to be a representation of you as a professional. So I'm going to give you tips and tricks and my professional opinion, but ultimately this is a representation of you, and you need to be happy with it. And I tell my students that as well. So what it does is your resume summarizes your skills and your experiences and your accomplishments. So we're not giving every single thing in every single detail about every job that you've ever had. We're going to summarize those things into a very clear and concise, easy to read document that describes you as a professional and paints that picture for an employer. So some components that we're going to talk about today, and these are things that you should have in your resume. Some of them are mandatory and some of them are optional. So of course, you must have your name and contact information, a profile. This is going to be, we're going to talk about this in a minute, your education, related experience, whether it's internships, work, or volunteer, but these are things that are directly related to what you are applying for. Additional experience, presentations and publications, research that you've done, leadership experience, volunteer experience, and skills, which is comprised of other languages that you may speak, computer, and other technologies. Just so you all know, I do have a sample resume I'm going to show you, and I will also make sure that Sharon has it, and we will send you the PowerPoint and this sample resume, as well as an action verb list that I'm going to talk about in a little while and why that is important to use as well. So contact information, we want to make sure that we have your first and last name. Now, if you have a very common name like Jane Smith, make sure that you're putting your middle initial or your entire middle name in. That's going to distinguish you from the other Jane Smith, Joe Smith in the pile. A mailing address. Now, if you're uncomfortable with putting your street address, a city and state with a zip code is fine. A phone number that works with an appropriate voicemail message. So something along the lines of, hi, you've reached Jenny. I can't get to the phone right now. Please leave a message with your name, time and date of call, and a brief message, and I will get back to you as soon as possible, is appropriate. We do recommend, or at least I recommend, steering away from that automated message that is already on your cell phone that just repeats the phone number back. Employers want to know that they've actually reached a person and that they've reached you. If you have a personal reason for not wanting your voice on your voicemail message or your name, then you can stick with that automated message. We also need an email address, something professional that you check regularly. So your entire name at either Yahoo, Gmail, Hotmail, they're all free. We really want to stay away from things that have your birth date in them or things that have either double or triple X in them. Those are going to go to spam. Okay? And please make sure that you're checking your voicemail and checking your email regularly. So an objective. So I know that we had a profile, so I'm going to talk about both. So an objective is 1 to 2 sentences that tells the reader specifically what types of opportunities you're looking for. Now, we really recommend the objective if you don't have a lot of experience in the field in which you would like to go into. So if you're a recent grad and you don't have a lot of experience, you would use this. Or if you are a career changer, you could use this. And it's a very, again, 1 to 2 sentences, and it outlines specifically what opportunity you're looking for. Okay, and we've given you some examples there. Now, a summary is going to summarize your experience. So even if you're a career changer, you could use that, and you're just going to touch on the areas of experience that you have. Okay, so example, if you have worked in, if you say had worked in career services for a dozen years, and now you want to go into management, what we want to do is summarize the skills from career services that would be applicable in a management role and talk about that in that profile or summary. Okay, here we are, profile statements. So it really is, if you have a lot of related experience, that you're going to summarize that. Okay, and that's most likely going to be 3 to 4 sentences. Are there any questions about, Sharon, do we have any questions about the summary or the objective?
Not yet. But there's one, someone did say, will this presentation will be made available? And yes, we can send a PDF of it, and we're also recording it, so it'll be on our YouTube channel.
Wonderful. Okay. So now we move on to our educational information. So you have 2 choices here. If you are a recent grad, and I don't know how many of you are, I really recommend putting this towards the top of your resume. If you graduated some time ago and you have a lot of experience in the field in which you are applying, you can put this at the bottom of your resume. So for example, I have 11 years of experience in career development. I now have my educational information at the bottom of my resume because I find that it is more beneficial to me to have all of my related experience at the top. But no matter where you put it, there are some things that you want to include. So the name of the institution, where we're located, when you graduated, month and year. Then you have a choice. You can put, if you would like, which college within the university you graduated from. So if you were a business student, you can put Katsaka's College of Business. If you were a College of Science and Health, you can put College of Science and Health. You do not have to if you don't want to. Then we need the type of degree and what your major was. You can also include your GPA if it's 3.0 or higher. Now, if you received your bachelor's degree and went on to get an advanced degree, maybe MBA, master's in something else, PhD, whatever it is, pardon me, you would put your most recent degree first, skip a line, and then put William Paterson in, or wherever your bachelor's degree was from. So we always want to start, no matter what heading we're under, we want to start with the most recent experience and work backwards. So we're going in reverse chronological order. If you went to a community college before you attended William Paterson, you would put William Paterson first with all of the important information highlighted on your screen. Then you would skip a line and you would put the name of your community college with the same information that's highlighted. So the name of the institution, the degree that you obtained, if you had what your major was, your year of graduation, and that GPA if it's 3.0 or higher. Okay. If you attended an institution but did not graduate from it, you're going to leave it off. If you attended another institution and transferred to William Paterson, you're also going to leave it off. Those credits then became William Paterson credits and went towards your degree from William Paterson. Okay, our resume is going to be accomplishment focused, so we've only put on things that we have previously accomplished or are currently accomplishing. So if you're currently working, okay. So there is our education.
Jenny, there is a question about education that's really specific to this webinar.
Okay.
If someone graduated from William Paterson College, do they put William Paterson University now? Because it was called college up until 97. So
I would say put William Paterson University, because there are not a lot of people that know that it used to be William Paterson College. And now
William,
if you're asked for an academic transcript, which I don't believe you will be, there's very few employers out there that are going to be asking for that. What you would do is just let the employer know at that time that the university was previously known as William Paterson College.
And one more question about education. How would you
Sure.
current degree if you're pursuing a current degree?
So that would come first. You would put it first. And what you would do is you would format it the same way you see on your screen, but for that graduation date, you can write expected, the month and the year. So say you're expecting to get your MBA in May of 2020. It would say expected May 2020.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any more education questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
This person wants to know if they have a second degree in an unrelated field to what I'm looking for in a job. Should I leave that off or put that in?
No, you should put that on. Any degree that you have is valuable. Just like we're going to talk about in a little bit, any work experience that you have, whether it's related or not, is valuable to you.
Okay. And that's it.
Okay, great. So let's move on if my computer wants to work right now. What's going on here? Come on. There we go. We're going to move on to experience. Okay. So now you have a choice. I'm going to pull up my sample here. Let's see if I can do that. I have to exit out. Let's pull up the sample resume here. Oh, that's not it. Where is it? Oh, there we go. Okay, so let's see if I can. Whoopsies. Sorry, guys. Okay, there we go. So this one's formatted. So here you'll see that profile. We have all of our contact information. You'll see the profile. Then we have education. Now you'll see professional experience. So you have a couple of choices in terms of how you label this. So it can be professional experience or it can be related experience, but this is everything that is related to what you are applying for. Okay, so a little bit of formatting for you. We want the name of the company, where they're located, the dates that you worked there or are currently working there, and what your position title was. And then we want to know what you do. So let's go back here. Okay. translate. So you'll see we have some formatting here for you. Then we want to know in what you do, we have a bulleted list of duties or responsibilities, but we don't just want to know that you answered the phone and answered questions. We want the nitty gritty. We want all the details. Okay, employers want to get below the surface of what you're doing. And the longer you're in a position, the more bullet pointed statements you're going to have. Okay, so about writing those, we also call them accomplishment statements. So we want to start with action verbs. I mentioned an action verb list. We do have that for you. It's right here. We will be sending it over. It's broken down into pieces. Now, this page is out of our career development toolbox, which you can find on our website. It is an electronic PDF. It's about 60 pages. It covers resumes, cover letters, interviewing skills, utilizing LinkedIn. So that is available to you as alumni on our website. Okay, so, but you want to make sure you're starting with action verbs. You want to make sure that if you are currently in a position and currently doing something, that you're writing in present tense. And if you're not, that you're changing that to past tense. So if I was writing bullet pointed statements for my current position here at William Paterson, my bullet points would most likely be in the present tense unless I have completed an assignment or a project. And then I would put those in the past tense and put them at the end of my list. For my previous position at Hudson County Community College, all of my bullet points are going to be in the past tense because I'm no longer in that job. Okay. We're going to leave out personal pronouns. So I, my, we, them, their, us, our. We're going to be leaving those out. A resume should be easy to skim, and they are unnecessary words for when an employer is trying to skim your resume. Additionally, the more details you have in your bullet pointed statements, the better. So what you see on your screen now is an excerpt from our toolbox, and it gives you an example of a good point, a better point, and a best point. Now, we've shown you detail here in terms of quantity, but I'm going to give you an example from my job, and I give this example to my students as well. So a good bullet point for what I do is I assist students with career development tools. So I've given you a basic idea of what I do, but that bullet point could leave you wondering, well, what does that mean? So in order to help with that, I'm going to elaborate a little more. So a better bullet point could be assist students with career development tools, including resume and cover letter writing, interview skills, and job and internship search strategies. So now I've given you a little bit more detail. So you're going, okay, I have a better idea of what Jenny does every day with students. But you still may be going, well, I still am not quite sure exactly what she does. I need a little more. So the best bullet point I could write for that would be assist approximately 20 students per week from the College of Science and Health and the College of Education with resume and cover letter writing, mock interviews, and how and where to conduct job and internship searches. So now I've given you a lot of detail, and I've painted a better picture for you of what I do with my students on a daily or weekly basis. So it's really about giving a lot of detail, okay? Oftentimes, individuals think that they're giving too much detail. What I always say is put it all in, and our office can help you take out what you don't need. Or put it all in, have somebody else take a read through it, and if it seems too bulky, then we just want to take out a little. But we really want to answer all of those surface level questions about what you're doing or what you did, so when you go to the interview, the interviewer can ask you some more in-depth questions. Okay. Are there any questions about bullet pointed statements?
There's a bunch of questions, so let's get.
Okay.
This one is a little bit from education, but if the person graduated from William Paterson, say in 1985, should they put?
Okay.
Do they have to put the year?
No, you do not. If you're uncomfortable, so again, the resume is a representation of you. If you are uncomfortable putting the year that you graduated, you are welcome to leave it off.
Thank you. And then now this is regarding listing education or experience first. This is someone who is 2 years, if someone is 2 or more years out of college, but has not yet had legitimate work experience beyond like a part-time job. Okay, so let's say a long-term substitute teacher or a teacher assistant, they're trying to get a teaching position, but they're 2 or more years out already. Should they put education first or experience first?
Yes, so I'm assuming that this person was an education major here. What I would recommend, and I do work with the College of Education, so what I would recommend is you put your education first. Additionally, you want to make sure that you are putting on there that you have your New Jersey teaching license. Okay, so you could, and this is for anybody who has any types of certifications or licensure, you can create an additional heading after your education section that is either licensure or certifications, and you can list those.
Okay.
Okay. Also, for my education majors on the line, in March, we are going to be having our education career fair. It is Friday, March 29th. Please keep that in mind. We usually have somewhere between 65 and 75 school districts here. You are welcome to attend that.
Thank you. We will promote that as well to you. Okay.
Sharon, you and I can have a conversation about that as well.
Yes, we will. Okay, next question. What is the best way to show promotions when you're listing your experience within a company? So if you've been in a company and had 2 or 3 different jobs, what's the best way to list that?
Okay, so what you would want to do is in our formatting, let's go back. In our formatting, you would list the name. So let's just use KPMG as an example. You would list the name of the company, where they're located, and then instead of putting the date on the same line as the company, you would put your most recent position and your dates. Then you would put your bullet points, skip a line, put the previous position and the dates. Now you would go back to the most recent position and write promoted from the name of the previous position after X amount of time, or promoted from the previous name of the position, and that's it. So you list all the positions under each other with your responsibilities, but you're always going to put as your first bullet point, promoted from, and the name of the previous position.
Okay, great.
Does that make sense to everybody?
I think so. If it did, let me know, whoever asked the question.
If anybody needs clarification, or the person who asked needs clarification, please just write Sharon a little note, and I will make sure to clarify for you.
And also, I just want to tell you that, that made sense. They said, yes, it made sense.
Perfect.
The person who was asking about the position, when they haven't had a full-time position yet, but graduated more than 2 years ago, she wasn't technically looking for a teaching job, just so you know. But I think the answer would be the same, that you would list the education first, right?
Yes, you would list the education first, because usually what's going to happen is the work experience is very important to have on there too. But a lot of jobs now, especially when you're not out of school for so long, they're looking to see that you've obtained that bachelor's degree.
Okay.
And so that's what they're going to be looking for first.
Perfect. Now we have two more experience questions. We're still in experience.
Wonderful.
What if the only job experience you have so far is not related to the job you're applying for? Would you list it on your resume, and would you list it as professional experience or additional experience?
So you could list it as work experience or just experience. You don't have to have a defining, you don't have to classify the experience as anything other than experience. And what you want to focus on that, and we're going to talk about this we'll talk about this a little bit, and this is a great segue, is, let me go back. What you want to talk about is what we call transferable skills. So these are things that you can take from any job to any job and any field to any field. So they are things like leadership. So if you've been in a position where you have, where you're in charge of overseeing other employees or training other employees, if teamwork is another one. So if you worked in teams, the ability to think critically and solve problems, time management, organizational skills, the ability to work with supervisors and those above you. Anytime where you took initiative and either started new programs or possibly found solutions to problems at your organization on your own. So anything that is real, customer service is a big one. There's very few fields out there right now where you're not working with customers or clients. I like to use education as an example. Even in education, students and parents are your customers. So really any of those skills that we consider transferable are the things that you should focus on if you do not have any related work experience.
Okay. And you know, actually, this next question is a perfect example. This person is a veteran and says, should they put that under experience, and how would you list it? Well, I think that's totally experience is something, right? I mean,
Yes,
all the skills you get
absolutely.
there.
Absolutely, you can do that. You can also, I would say, list it under experience, because in service to your country, and we thank you for your service to this country, in service to your country, you're doing so much on a daily basis, and we really want to highlight those things, and we want to highlight those transferable skills.
Okay. Oh, okay. Exactly. And are we still on experience? Because someone has one more question, and I don't know if you're
You
moving
go
on.
for it.
How many years of experience should you include? If you've been
We
working,
really,
if you've been working for
go
over
ahead.
20 years, what do you do?
So we want to go back 10 years, unless what's prior to 10 years is where you were at the company that you are applying to. So say you were company A 15 years ago, you left and you went to 2 other places, and now you're applying to company A again, you can put that on.
Okay. So if you've been at the same job for 15 years, you just put one job on your resume?
Um, you could go back to another, you could go back one more job. That would be okay as well. It kind of depends on the situation and where you're applying, and if you have been promoted in that at that one organization over the last 15 years.
Okay.
Most of what I'm telling you is going to apply to you. There are some individuals out there where we may have to make some adjustments and some tweaks, and where I may need to answer some individualized questions.
Okay.
And I'm happy to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, so a couple of things when you are writing your bullet pointed description. Okay, what you did or what you're doing in the position, but not just tasks that you are assigned. So accomplishments. So if there are things that you are excited about, that you want to tell your family about, that you feel very proud of, those are things we want to hear about. No less than 3 bullet points per experience. Okay. The reason we use bullet points instead of paragraphs is it makes it easier for an employer to skim your resume. Employers only have a finite amount of time to read through resumes, and we want to make sure that they're getting as much information off your resume in a short period of time as possible. Again, we're going to start each statement with those action verbs and leave out the personal pronouns. Watch the tenses. And the last bullet point here is include keywords. So I want to touch on this for a bit. So when you read through a job description, you're going to find words that are industry specific, and they could be short phrases, they could be single words, but they're typically industry specific, although they don't always have to be. And you will most likely see them pop up in many of the job postings that you're seeing for the same types of jobs. Okay, and they are typically found in those job descriptions. And we want you to incorporate those into your resume. Okay, so it may just be adjusting some of the word choices in your resume, but what that's going to do is it's going to highlight the skills that are required from the job description, and it's also going to increase your chances that your resume is going to make it through what we call applicant tracking systems if they're being used. So these are automated systems where all of the applications are filtered before they make it to an actual person. I personally am not a fan of them, but we do find that larger companies use them because they get so many applicants and so many resumes that there has to be a way to weed through them initially to find people that are qualified. But those keywords are going to help you make it through those systems. Okay, so for example, for career services, some of those keywords might be student engagement, or we might find that it is maybe the name of one of our systems that we use here in the office, so something called Simplicity. We might find that it's things such as, it could be a little bit more generic, communication or written and verbal communication. So it's things that you're going to see repeated in job postings. As you start to read through them, you're going to see these, and that's how you're going to know that they're your keywords, because you're going to see them repeated throughout job descriptions. Okay. Questions on keywords?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. So here's that sample resume again, and you can see that this person, this individual has related experience, so we've highlighted that as the professional experience. They also have, this is a recent grad, they have leadership experience. So for example, if I have anybody who is possibly, and we do get this from time to time, has been out of the workforce for a little while and is now re-entering, maybe you've stayed home with kids, you're stay-at-home dad or mom, or you maybe had a health concern and you've been out of the field for a while, and you've been doing some volunteer, perhaps maybe at your child's school or in your religious organization, we can highlight that as leadership experience. Okay, so it gives you something extra to put on your resume where we can focus on some transferable skills if they're not related to the field that you're looking to work in. Okay, the same thing with volunteer experience. Okay, you can do the same thing. You'll also see on here something that's activities. This is more if you're a recent grad. We recommend putting this on. Sorry, let me move my box down here at the bottom so you can see it a little better. This is more for a recent grad if you've been involved on campus. Okay. However, if you are not a recent grad and you participate in things, perhaps you are a scout leader of some kind, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, or you are part of an organization in your community where you would like to highlight that as an activity, you're welcome to do that as well. Okay, maybe you're part of the Alumni Association here at William Paterson, or at another institution that you attended, you could put that as an activity as well. Okay. My computer doesn't want to work now.
No.
So additional things that you can add. This is a different resume sample, but I've just put it up here to highlight some things, especially for our recent grads. So some additional things you can add: achievements, honors, and awards. Now this is for everybody. Okay, if you are at your place of employment and you've been Employee of the Month, or you've received a special award or recognition from your employer, please feel free to add that. It's always nice to include and to brag. This is your resume is an opportunity to brag about yourself as a professional. We want you to have the opportunity to do that. So highlighting awards. For my recent grads, academic coursework and academic projects to highlight what your knowledge base is and how you've applied that, even if you don't have related work experience. Okay. Again, leadership and volunteer experience as well is something you can add. Now you'll see on the bottom of this resume sample, and it was on the previous one, skills. So this is language skills. If you speak another language, we want your level of proficiency and the name of the language, and then computer skills. So we want to know what computer programs, so at least Microsoft Office and which programs. Okay, if there are programs specific to the field that you're working in that you know how to use. So example, for my field, I have Simplicity and a couple of other data management systems that I would list. Okay. Now, depending on what field you're going to go into, sometimes social media is good to add. If you're in marketing, okay, you can put that on. If you're in other fields, I would recommend leaving it off, especially if it's teaching or any type of service, public service. I would recommend leaving that off. Okay. Formatting. Okay. So before I get to, so you'll see my bottom bullet point there, but I'm going to get to that in a minute. So the font, we want no larger than 12 point, but you can go as small as 10. Okay. Black text color only. Single spaced, but use your enter key to skip lines and create some white space. So we don't want everything smushed up against each other. It makes it very difficult to read. Your margins, no bigger than 1 inch, but you can go as small as 0.5 all the way around. Now, the 1-page versus 2-page question.
Oh my God. Can I just tell you, I just got 5 people sending that in.
Okay, so the 1-page versus 2-page question. Now, if you are only comfortable with a 1-page resume, stick with a 1-page resume. However, this is a misnomer. The only way that we would not recommend more than 1 page is if you do not have any related experience, or if you have very little work experience. If you have been working in your field for, say, 11 years, such as myself, and it's related to the opportunity you're applying for, more than one page is perfectly acceptable. Example, my resume, and I work in higher education, so it's a little bit different. My resume is 2.5 pages, and that is perfectly acceptable because everything on it is related to my field and because I work in higher education. So it's a bit more acceptable. Okay, if you're a recent grad and you may not have a lot of work experience or a lot of related experience, you're sticking to a page. If you are a career changer and you do not have a lot of, you don't have any related experience, we may want to consider sticking to one page and highlighting what you've done in your previous positions that is transferable. Okay, but if you're applying in field and you have related experience that is applicable to what you're applying for, you can go 2 pages. But if you're going to go 2 pages, you have to have at least a half of the second page. It can't be 3 lines on the second page. We're looking for at least half of the second page to be filled. Again, if you're uncomfortable with the second page, there are things formatting-wise that we can do to keep you on one page. I do have students, and I've met with alum in the past who have come in and said, I'm really not comfortable with going on to another page. And we've gotten them onto one page.
Hey, Jenny, there's another question here.
Yes.
This is just kind of the same thing, but the difference between a resume and a CV, especially if you have publications, that makes it more than one page. So
yes, a CV is traditionally much more than one page. And you see a CV used more in, my personal opinion, used more in academia, or in the sciences, where you could have research and publications and things like that. But that's typically lengthy. It's longer than a resume. Absolutely.
thank you.
And it's formatted a little bit differently too, but I'm not going to go into that right now.
Right.
Other questions?
There's one more here. If you, and I think you've sort of adjusted, if you have experience providing your services in community events, even if it's a one-day event, can you add this to your resume?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you went and did a presentation at a community event, there's a couple of different ways that you could list that. You can list it as volunteer work, because I'm sure that there was some preparation that you did to get ready for that event. So you could write a few bullet points. If you would prefer not to do that, you could list it as volunteer and just list the name of it and the date. Or you can do if you've done it several times, you could make a presentations heading, list the name of your presentation, what you did it for, and the date. Now, if it's not a presentation and you've used your skills, perhaps marketing, where you're assisting with marketing of an event, I would say let's put that under your experience and try to write 2 to 3 points about what you did, even if it's volunteer. And your position title then would be volunteer. And you could put it under related experience if you'd like. There's a lot of different options for your resume based on your experience. So this gives you an overview, kind of a very general format. But there are adjustments based on your individual experiences. And a resume is not a static document. I like to tell people that if it's not working for you one way, we can try it another way. Okay. We can adjust it. We can move things around. We can remove things. We can add things. Okay.
This kind of goes with this. Someone wants to know, is it okay to only include contact info, education, and experience? Do you have to have areas like skills, awards? And I think you just said to that would be.
Okay, so the only mandatory headings that you really need to have is your contact information, your education, your experience, and your skills. I would say if you're only going to include the basics, that's what you need to have. That's your bare minimum.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Jenny.
You're welcome. Any more questions?
That's it for now. Oh,
well, that brings me to the end of my PowerPoint. So I am happy to answer any more questions that anybody has.
Okay, so if you have questions, you can write them in. There actually was somebody who wanted to know if you have a template for a CV. I don't know if you do there in the Career Development Center, if you could share that.
I don't. I'm sorry. Could you hold on for 1 second? I
Yes,
apologize, guys. Give me one.
hang on, guys. She will be right back. But in the meantime, we have a few more questions coming in. So as soon as Jenny gets back from, I think, closing her door, we will address the rest of the sections.
I'm back.
I
Sorry about that.
know we heard.
There's a little bit of noise in the hallway. I wanted to make it a little quieter for you all.
Thank you.
We do not have a template for a CV here in the office. But speaking of templates, thank you for whoever asked the question. I really do recommend staying away from templates. Microsoft Word has a lot of them. They may seem like a great idea off the bat, especially if you do not currently have a resume or are looking to start from scratch. They can be very difficult to edit and also very difficult to move pieces around if you decide you'd like to do that. I really recommend a blank Word document, and then use your enter key, your space bar, your tab key. Use the functions at the top where you can use your bold, your italic, your underline, and really start with a blank Word document. Anything that you can find in a template, you are very capable of doing with a blank Word document and some of the different functions that are in that system.
Question. Here's some more questions coming in. What about a link to a link to your LinkedIn profile? Should you include that on your resume?
Yes, you absolutely can, and you would include it in where your contact information is underneath your email address.
Okay, thank you.
Just make sure that if you're including it, that your LinkedIn profile has been updated to match your resume. And something else about LinkedIn, since we're talking about it, is you can have more on your LinkedIn profile than what's on your resume. So example, if you go back 10 to 15 years on your resume, you can go back 20 to 25 years in your LinkedIn profile. That's okay.
And just a plug, we're going to be doing another webinar in November talking about LinkedIn. Okay.
Is Mary Alice doing that one?
Yes, she is.
Wonderful. You should all attend that. Mary Alice is fabulous.
She's amazing.
I work with her, and she is amazing.
So lots of questions. This person is a mentor in a mentorship program with her company. Should she put that under experience or maybe put that under activities?
It's up to you. It's a personal choice. So you can put it under experience. You can put it under volunteer. You can put it under activities. It's really your choice. It depends if you want to explain what you're doing. If you do not want to put bullet pointed statements and explain it, I would just list it under activities. If you want to give some detail about what you're doing, then I would either put it under your experience section or under a volunteer.
Okay. Sorry, there's a bunch of questions coming in. One person does want to know, actually a couple of people want to know, would they be able to send you a resume for feedback if they had one that they wanted to get reviewed? How would you do that if possible?
So typically what you would do is through our office, we have something called Trailblazer. And Sharon, if you don't mind, I will pull up our webpage.
Absolutely.
And show everybody if I can get out of my, there we go. I'll pull up our website for you. William Paterson. So it would be on the Campus Life tab, Career Development. There is an alumni tab here for you. And once you click on that, there is a, where is it? Trailblazer. Why can't I find it? I may have to go to the home page. There will be a link for Trailblazer here somewhere.
And this is for all alumni to use to get into.
It may have to be under, I'm sorry, it's located under students. So connect to Trailblazer right here. And you would create an alumni account. And then we would approve that. And you can upload your resume in there for review. That's really the best way to go about doing it. If you are a recent grad, meaning you graduated, if you're a recent grad, you get in-person services with our office for up to 1 year after graduation. So if you graduated in May of 2018, you have until May of 2019 to utilize in-person services in our office. If you graduated December of 17, You have until the end of this December to utilize in-person services. I would say your best bet as a alum, if you're further than a year out, is to upload your resume in Trailblazer. You could email it to me if you wanted to, but it will take me some time to get it back to you. So I would say if you're in a little bit more of a rush, upload it in Trailblazer. If you want me to review it, I'm happy to do that. But I would say you're probably looking at a turnaround time of about 2 weeks for me.
Okay, thank you. A couple more questions. In general, I know if you're putting a resume in for different jobs, you should tailor it for the job you're putting it in for. And
Yes.
this person wants to know if you're open to entry level in more than one industry, you're just seeking experience in general. Should you also create different resumes per job application?
So you want to make sure when you're reading a job description that you are highlighting, looking at the qualifications for that job description and highlighting those things in your resume. And that's where kind of those keywords can come in handy as well. And you want to make sure that regardless of so if you're looking for a position maybe that's has nothing to do with the industry that you've worked in previously and you're open to really anything, look at the qualifications and look for those transferables, and you will want to tailor your resume based on the qualifications listed in the job description.
Okay.
Usually what I would recommend, so I'll use myself as an example. When I graduated from grad school, I was applying for career services positions and academic advisor jobs, as well as positions in alumni relations. So I had one version of my resume that was tailored a little bit more towards career, one that was tailored a little bit more towards academic advisement, and one that was tailored a bit more towards alumni. So I had 3 versions of my resume. Same thing with a cover letter. You're going to want to make sure you're tailoring your cover letters. But I did have 3 versions of my resume, and depending on what opportunities I was applying for, I would use the appropriate version.
Here's an interesting question. Let's say you volunteer for an organization that might be sensitive, like this person says maybe a political organization or something like that. Can you include that in your activities, or is it better to leave it off because it could be, a sensitive subject?
It's up to you. But here's what I'm going to say. You may have to decide based on where you are applying. So you may have to do some research on the company where you're applying to see if it would be appropriate. Okay. We are living in a time where there is a lot of sensitivity to a lot of things right now. And that's all right. You have to gauge your level of comfort with sharing those things with employers. And that may be based on the culture at that organization and what you can find out about the organization, maybe what their stance is on certain issues, and where they stand. So the answer is yes and no.
Right, because if you're applying for a job at a company that you think may not like the organization you're volunteering for or something like that.
Exactly.
Right.
So, for example, and I'm going to try to be very sensitive about my example. If you are applying for an organization that is very religious-based, very religious-based, and they have certain viewpoints, you may not want to put on that you volunteer at Planned Parenthood. It really just kind of depends on what you find out about the organization and what your level of comfort with sharing is. I hope that was an appropriate example. I apologize if it was not.
No, it was very, very good. Okay, there is a question here, but I'm going to move it because this person wants to know about a cover letter, what it should include, but I'm going to interject and say that we actually did a webinar totally about cover letters. So if it's okay, unless you want to address it, Jenny, I'm going to...
I can do a real quick response for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so in our toolbox, which I'll show you because it's on our website also. So right here, Career Toolbox, that's going to open up that PDF document for you. In our toolbox, we have a whole section on cover letters, pages 31 to 37. For me, I would say the most important thing when writing your cover letter is you want to make sure that you're tailoring it to the qualifications of the position that you're applying for. And that's going to come, let's see if I can just page down here real quick. Sorry for all the scrolling.
This is a great document, by the way.
Yep, and you can download this to your computer. Cover letters. So here's your format. So, and I actually have another sample that I use, but what you really want to do in this, and there's a couple of different samples here, is you really want to highlight and speak to the qualifications from the job description, and you want to pick the ones that are your strongest and talk about those and how you've used those in the past or how you are currently using them. Okay, but we do have a section in the book about cover letters, and we do have some samples that you all can look at, and I have another sample too. If anyone's interested, just let Sharon know and I can send you over my other sample.
Jenny, will you send the link to this where they can download?
This is right on our webpage.
Okay, you know what, everybody, when I send out the presentation, I will send out the link to the website where you can download this.
So, William Paterson, Campus Life, Career Development. And if you just go to Career Development, it's going to be under the Alumni tab. It's right on the right-hand side, Career Toolbox. It's right there.
Okay.
Other questions?
I think that is the end of them, and we're getting close to the time. So I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank Jenny for doing this wonderful webinar, and don't forget, we're going to be doing one on LinkedIn and social and stuff like that for your resume in November with Mary Alice. So I hope you'll all sign up for that one too. If you have any other questions, you're going to be getting a little survey at the end of this. Just fill in your questions there and we can answer them. And we will send you some links to these, like to the toolbox in case you didn't see where that was or you had to leave or something. So I will send that all out to you. And Jenny, thank you so much. It was
Thank you. And if anyone has more questions, Sharon, please feel free to share my email address.
Absolutely.
I just ask, just give me a few days. If you send me an email, just give me a few days to respond to your question. I'm actually going to be out tomorrow afternoon. So just give me a few days. I promise that I will answer all of your questions.
Wait, are you going to be out tomorrow afternoon?
Oh, because I'm taking my son trick-or-treating because it's his first time.
She's a new mom.
So he's going to
the picture.
Oh, you want me to flash the picture? Yes. I will flash the picture of my adorable, my little boy. This is Wyatt. He's going to be 6 months old on Thursday, but this is his first Halloween. So I'm going to take him trick-or-treating. He's being an avocado.
Perfect.
So that's why I'm not going to be here tomorrow afternoon. But I promise to answer all of your emails with all of your questions. So please don't hesitate to ask those. And happy Halloween to everybody if you are celebrating. I hope you all have a great rest of the week. And thank you for your time and for attending today.
And thank you, everybody. Say goodbye to Wyatt. We'll see you again soon. Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.